Sophie, his 13th birthday. Gift? We've got you. Guitar? Coming tomorrow. Road game today, surprise party tomorrow. Change of plans. Game tomorrow.
No, birthday tomorrow.
Hotel!
Guitar. Reroute.
Birthdays are on birthdays.
Party. Relocate. UPS My Choice makes rerouting packages easy. How we're helping companies solve for the needs of customers like Sophie.
Yes, we are getting ready for an outstanding Marshall football team. Where, again, when you have a game like Wisconsin, and when you play a team that's a top 10 team, you don't play well. You try to watch the film, see the things that you can gain from that game, and move on from it as much as you can. Very much like Oklahoma last year when you play a top 10 team, and they get after you pretty good. There's a lot of things you can learn from it, but you also want to move from it and move on to your next football game. And it's a huge game, Marshall. But we had a lot of kids that played very hard against Wisconsin. I think when you look back at Wisconsin and you see what needs to happen to be in a game like that, or they never turned the ball over or gave up a big play. You know, the games like that are so much an underdog goes in against a top 10 team, and you've got to create a turnover, or you got to get a big play, and they did none of that. They gave up no turnovers. They gave up a punt return for a touchdown. But as far as our offense was concerned, and then it kind of just and they kept doing what they do well. And so what we do is we played it just like Oklahoma last year. We played it, we moved from it, and our kids will gain from that experience. And now we get to Marshall, a team that's another very, very good football team. And although I guess like us, they're considered a mid-major team, they've probably been 10 or more wins the last 3 or 4 years. And just like last year, and they opened up with Morgan State, and it was over by the time the first quarter was over. The game was over, and so you get only so much out of that game. I remember my first year here, we won 66-6 against Morgan State. But because of that, we have to really just go out there and try to prepare off of for Marshall the best we can, knowing that game was pretty much in hand pretty quickly. They're outstanding football team. Marshall is a team that has played very well the last 4 or 5 years, a top team in their conference, bowl team, a winning bowl team, and then historically Marshall has experienced much success, whether it be national champions at the 1AA level or at the bowl level. They're a program that's done very, very well. I always enjoy having been raised in West Virginia. This is the first time I've been going back to West Virginia since I think Linville. We played one game in North Alabama there. Doc Holliday and we played football together at West Virginia. We've known each other a long time, and his team exemplifies the type of player he was when we played together at West Virginia. Just hard-nosed, blue-collar, come after you, tough guy, and that's the way they play. So we are excited about this game and look forward to it, and know we've got a very, 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 very difficult team on our hands that we've got to go in there and play our best football. Well, like I say, we haven't made any final decisions yet. You know, we have to look and see where we are with our backs. We'll try to get a little closer to that around Thursday or so, but we'll look and see where we are. We've got some guys that are banged up, but we'll try to make a decision about Thursday when we see it. Don't want to be premature on any of that stuff because there's no reason to. And so this time of year, once you get into the season, there's a lot of guys you ain't practicing on Tuesday and Wednesday that you're counting on them being ready on Thursday. I think so far, yes, he really does. He gives us a big play capability on offense. He gives us a special teams returning capability as a punt returner, and he's made big plays. He had a nice catch for almost a touchdown against Wisconsin. They called him out of bounds. We went back and looked at the film, and I think it could have been called either way. It's not one of those you can get mad at the official, but when you look at all the film, it looked like he drug his feet. You know how you can tell on AstroTurf when you drag something, those little black dots come up, and you could see the black dots having come up where only a foot that drug, but it was too hard for me to see. I couldn't see it. But regardless of that, he's made big catches and made some big plays, so he is a nice addition we need to get some more of our offensive players in the mix of making plays as well as JoJo and Jerome Lane. Absolutely. He went through spring football with us, got to know our offensive system, and that was huge. He also was voted captain. I mean, the first time I've had a one-year guy who came and sat out a year and was voted as a team captain, along with DeAndre Scott, who's been here 5 years, and James Turner, who's been here 4 years and maybe 5 years himself. But those three are our caps. So it says a lot about him and the fact that he worked so hard in the off season and made that kind of impression on our football team.
How much did Van Edwards push Warren Ball in fall camp? And how are they different or the same as running back?
Well, Van, I mean, it was nip and tuck. I think we decided to start Warren. He was a senior. I mean, they were both kind of 1/1. Warren is a senior, and we felt like he had transferred here and worked so hard. And he was the second vote getter for our offensive captain. He only missed it by one vote, to JoJo Natson. The kind of leader he is. He was only here for the summer, and but he also, he's bigger, 230, 200. Van's faster. He's more power. The run that he fumbled on against Wisconsin, he ran over the defensive tackle. I mean, ran smack over a defensive tackle and broke 2 other tackles before he got the ball stripped. And so they're both a little different. Van, and as we have played the first 2 games, I think Warren Ball established himself as the number 1 tailback in the sense that he made some big runs in both ball games. I'm trying to think, if we had anybody that Manny ran well. Manny ran well, and we're looking for that third back. Hakeem Lawrence has been banged up since preseason began, and we haven't been able to use Hakeem Lawrence, a senior that is probably the fastest guy on our team. We haven't, but he's not. But we keep waiting for. So that's why I say you hate to say it. This guy won't play this week, or that guy won't play. If tomorrow he finally gets to the point where he can play, he's going to be it. But right now, our Manny Morgan and DJ Jones are fighting for that third position. At the tailback position, and so Manny did make some nice runs there, and they're all. I think the difference between Warren Ball and all the rest of them is Warren Ball is 230 pounds, and they're all around 195 to 205, and that's a lot of difference in size and strength. But they all run. Those other backs run very similar. Van's just faster, a little bit bigger, a little faster than the other ones. You may want to mentally discount some of it because you're hoping it's because he's playing a FCS school that he's a little bit stronger than, and so. But Tommy Woodson threw 6 touchdown passes against VMI, and I would say the same question should be posed to either team. They're both this quarterback can play. I mean, Chase. I mean, he's the guy that their quarterback from last year, and he's got some new receivers, some tall receivers. He can throw the football, and so we already know how good he is. He just did what he's supposed to do against Morgan State. He's already proven the kind of quarterback he is. He's very dangerous, and they've got receivers that are very dangerous. And their big thing is they still want to run the football. And if you don't stop the run, you won't see as much of the quarterback, but you'll still see it a good bit. So quarterback is very, very good. Their running game is very effective, and they've got well balanced. Our defense will be challenged and extremely, and it'll be a great challenge. And I think it's one that our secondary, we need to step up. We've given up a lot of passing yardage and completions, and I think we need to step up and go. Yeah, he still runs the same offense, but the quarterback talent is different. Cato was more, he could scramble well and throw it on the run a little bit. This is more of a 6'6", big quarterback that stays in the pocket and throws a little bit more. But they utilize the same skill. They're going to throw it and catch it. They're going to hand it off and throw it. And if he has to hold on and run it, he will. Just a little different skill set. But this guy is definitely a guy that can throw the football, and that's the thing that you've got to be concerned with. He's going to hand it off mostly to get his running yardage and throw it to get the passing yardage. Well, I mean, what do you take from that game? Again, you got to create some turnovers, have some big plays in a big game. You got to do that. And Wisconsin was just good at not doing that, not giving that up. I don't know that I try to take physically. You hoped going into the game. I mean, you hoped that physically they just wouldn't overpower you completely, and they did. And when they did that and didn't turn it over or give up big plays, then it was kind of the outcome determinative type of thing where you're just fighting for your life. You had several different situations in the game where you could have changed it. We had 2 interception possibilities right off the bat with DeAndre Scott and Hope. Had easy interceptions. They might make most of the time, didn't make them. Long drive to get a score. The next drive, we hold them on 4th down. Now you've got them wasting. The quarter's over, and they've got 7 points. But what do? We get a safety, give up 9, safety touchdown, 9 points. So now instead of being 7-0 with our ball to run out the clock in the first, it's 16, and it went from there. So, again, what I get out of it is just that physically we're not able to hold up to a team like that, just coming off a huge win over LSU. And Paul Christ, does a great job coaching. As we talked about before the game on the field, he remembers he was at Pitt when we beat Pitt. He's not going to somehow tell his team, don't worry about this team, they're no good. They were ready to play. Because you kind of hope they aren't ready to play. In the pregame, you're watching to see if they're jagging around or joking around. You hope they're kind of taking it, but they didn't. They took care of business. The coaches could have worn a 3-piece suit. It was such a business-like thing, and they took care of business. So again, I'm not going to make less of it because we got beat pretty soundly, but I'm also not going to make more of it because in 23 years. I've been through a few of those, and some of the very best years my teams have ever had one of those games in there in that season, and it's all how you respond to that one. Much more importantly is how we focus on a very good. We don't have a rebound game. We've got a big game, and the thing about Mid-American Conference and the mid-major level, you can only have about 2 major goals. That's to win your conference and to go to a bowl. That makes the Marshall game as big as any game in our conference because those are the only 2 goals you got. I mean, you may say win the division and then try to win the conference, but I'm not sure it's totally unrealistic, but to say you're going to make the Final Four if you go undefeated, it's probably not even true there. Yeah, you know what, Joe, I think that's true, and I think I saw that when they came in because they know just what I told you. They know where they've come from and where they're going, and they know what they've been through last year, the year before, or whatever, and certain types of games get played, and that's part of it. Like I say, there's very few times in your life do you get a season where you don't lose one game, and so special seasons are almost always special because of how you played after you lost that one game. Almost, if you coach for a lifetime, which I've had 23 years, there's usually only about one undefeated season where you didn't have to experience that, 1 or 2 at most programs, and it's all about how you dealt. So I think that's where the seniors, they stepped up and say, man, let's get going, and the things you have to. This Marshall team is, they'll be ready to play, and it's a huge. I mean, I don't know how you rank all of our opponents, but they're right up there with the very best of them. I think so. I mean, we were both. I mean, I was a walk-on. He was maybe the last. My dad signed him. I want to say Doc's 5'9", 220-pound defensive end. Back when you could be 5'9", 220. At West Virginia, I signed in 74. He was 75. Hard as nails, tough as nails, and I think he ended up starting his last year, year after I graduated, or the year I graduated. But I thought he was going to be a coach. We were both kind of wrestlers. We were wrestlers in high school. It's a small state. You know everybody in the state. But I always thought he would coach, and he has. Our paths never crossed much. I graduated from West Virginia, and I have a coach in every state bus. I moved and coached everywhere almost but West Virginia. He spent 20 years at the university coaching before he ever even went anywhere else. He was with Chuck Amata as his assistant head coach for a few years. He was with Urban Meyer as his assistant coach at Florida, and then went back to West Virginia for a couple of years. And but I always thought he would coach. And he's a hard working guy, you know. And I thought he would be a good job, and he has. He's been an outstanding recruiter. What Doc has been in his life for 30 years as an assistant. I was an assistant 1 year in my life, and I was a small college. I was a head coach at small levels moving up. But he is a relentless recruiter, and I think Marshall, the team roster reflects the fact that he still has his hand in recruiting and understands the importance of getting he who has the better players wins most of the time. So I did an article in Charleston Gazette yesterday, I think yesterday, and they were asking me that question. I said, you know what, and I know them all. I mean, my brother Tommy and I were raised in Morgantown, And Jimbo Fisher was my quarterback, and I gave him his first job. And Rich Rodriguez, Tommy gave him his first job as an offensive coordinator at Tulane. Doc Holliday, we played together. Nick Saban was right there, close to Morgantown. My dad recruited him when he was in high school, although he didn't offer him a scholarship. He went to Kent State, but then offered him a graduate assistantship. I think the answer that I think when you think of it's a very blue-collar state. It's a very hard-working state where very few people got a lot of money, and you grow up hard and working hard, and you know the work ethic that's needed. And I don't know if there's a thought that many of us that were raised in West Virginia have a chip on our shoulder, because people make fun of West Virginians a lot. You're hillbillies, you're mountain. We like to say mountaineers, but you're often called hillbillies or whatever, and we take offense to that. And so I think there's a work ethic and a factor of climbing up and climbing out and proving yourself that's very important. And all the guys that I know that came out of West Virginia are extremely hard workers. They're blue collar coaches. If you know them all, the ones that we mentioned, that they're not pretty boys, I guess you'd call it. And there's not many pretty boys coming out of West Virginia. No, I think he recruited him. Nick was, but he just was short. He was a 5'8", 5'9", tops 5'9". I don't know what quarterback. And Dad he still talks about going into his dad owned a filling station and recruiting him and being his home, knew his dad. And but when it came down to it, that was just too short to recruit at West Virginia level, and he went on to play at Kent State. And then my dad tried to hire him as a graduate assistant. Then he went on somewhere else or stayed at Kent. But they all were. You got to understand, Rich and Jimbo and Nick were all raised within 30, 40 minutes of Morgantown, and so whereas Doc Holliday was down in Hurricane, West Virginia. Him and a guy named Steve Dunlap, who's been on West Virginia staff for 20 years, went to the same high school and played with us. And I want to say John McKay is from West Virginia. And there's a couple other. Hurry Up Yost is from West Virginia or played at West Virginia. Harry Hurry Up Yost from Michigan fame. There's a few others that people don't know about, but the main ones are the ones we know now. But I do go back to the work ethic, because there's not a lot of football players in West Virginia. The population is so small, and many counties are lucky to have one county high school, and some of those don't have football because you have to travel 2 or 3 hours to play another game into another county. It's not a lot of unpopulated areas, and so football there's not a lot of football players, but there's per capita coaches is pretty incredible. I look at how important this game is, and every single game. Because you have to grab them every single one, and you don't know. You look at Louisiana Lafayette last year. They had been to 3 straight bowls and won their conference and won their bowls, and they didn't have a great year at the end. But we were the first team to kind of expose that. But that was a game you didn't see how we're going to win it in Lafayette the way they had been playing the year before. They lost a little close game to Kentucky before they played us, and it just didn't look like. And then we go out there and hit some big plays and get it, and we lost a couple after that. So I don't do what you do, but I do take every single game is critical, and I'm not even sure in the conference. If you're honest, you can say that a conference game it should be any more valuable than a non-conference game, because to be successful in this league, there's a lot of teams. Ohio has done a great job. One of my favorite coaches, Frank Solis. I don't know if he's ever won the division, but he's in a bowl every year. They're a winning program. They're a winning program, and he's a winning coach. He's done a great job because he's in a bowl every year, and that's a critical part of building a continuous, successful program. So and we're just kind of shooting a bull now, but that's a fact. So I think in this conference, it's harder to win the conference than it is to go to a bowl, because in the old days when I first got into coaching, it took 8 or 9 bowl games to have to be lucky. In fact, I can remember coaching at West Virginia. We went 8-1-8, didn't get a bowl, and even Florida State we won 8 one year, didn't get a bowl. Back in the 70s and the early 80s. Now you win 6, you have to go to a bowl almost, But that's still what people look to as a successful program, and it takes a lot of things to go right to win the Mid-American Conference, but you can do some things right and go to a bowl, And so you got to have each goal. That's why every game is critical. Like you look at each game as a huge game and do everything you can. Because you can't, they're all important.